The world changes at 6:17 a.m. It does not announce itself with noise. It arrives as a vibration, a synchronized shudder of phones across bedrooms, kitchens, control rooms, and train platforms. Screens glow in the cold Polish morning. A single alert repeats, stripped of adjectives, heavy with implication. Unconfirmed nuclear detonation. Eastern Poland. In that instant, the future tilts. In Warsaw, Anna Lewandowska stands in her apartment hallway, coat half-buttoned, coffee cooling on the counter behind her. She works in emergency logistics, a profession built on contingency, and her phone is already ringing. She does not answer yet. She watches the light flicker once, twice, then steady. The building remains standing. The silence presses harder than any sound. 200 kilometers east, Captain Marek Zielinski watches a radar screen at a regional air defense station. The display refreshes slowly, as if reluctant. A bloom appears where geography used to be familiar. Marek has trained for this image for 20 years. Training does not soften the moment. His breath slows. His hand rests on a console he no longer trusts. At 6:20 a.m., the first official confirmations fail to arrive. That absence becomes the story. Television studios cut to emergency graphics that feel suddenly inappropriate. Anchors lower their voices without instruction. In offices and schools, people stop mid-task, not because they are told to, but because motion feels incorrect. Somewhere, a siren begins and stops halfway through its cycle. By 6:45 a.m., rail traffic halts between stations. Trains idle in open fields, doors locked, announcements looping with practiced calm. Passengers stare at reflections instead of windows. On highways, cars slow without collisions. Drivers pull over together, forming long, orderly lines of waiting metal. No one honks. No one knows where to go. Anna finally answers her phone at 7:02 a.m. The voice on the other end belongs to her director, speaking in fragments, as if conserving language. She is told to report to the coordination center. She is not told why. Anna looks at the coffee she will not finish and feels a small, unexpected grief. Ordinary rituals are already becoming artifacts. At 8 a.m., grocery stores open on schedule. Shelves are full for exactly 20 minutes. There is no shouting. People take what memory tells them matters. Water. Bread. Batteries. Parents calculate silently. Children sense urgency without explanation. Payment terminals lag, then recover, then lag again, like a pulse struggling to find rhythm. Captain Marek receives a coded update at 8:17 a.m. Airspace restrictions expand in widening circles. Aircraft already airborne divert without complaint. He relays instructions he did not write to pilots he will never meet. The sky remains blue and empty. That contrast feels deliberate, almost cruel. By mid-morning, social networks fracture. Videos appear of a distant mushroom cloud, then disappear under verification warnings. Some are real. Some are recycled from history. The distinction blurs quickly. Radios regain relevance. Static eats the edges of every broadcast. Words like precaution and assessment repeat until they lose shape. At 11:30 a.m., power fails briefly across eastern districts. Lights blink out and return, leaving behind a faint smell of dust and ozone. Elevators stop between floors. People laugh once, then stop. The laughter feels inappropriate, like a mistake. Anna reaches the coordination center shortly after noon. The room hums with generators and restrained voices. Maps glow on the walls, red zones undefined, borders tentative. She takes her seat and opens a binder labeled Week 1. No one acknowledges the title. She thinks of her parents in a village downwind and does not check the weather. Outside, the afternoon unfolds without permission. Schools release students early. Offices unlock doors. Few people arrive home quickly. Streets filled with purposeful walking, faces angled down, phones held low. Sirens move through traffic with restraint, as if conserving urgency. As evening approaches, rumors travel faster than statements. Borders are closing. Borders are open. Another strike is imminent. Another will never come. Each version carries equal weight. The national heartbeat slows perceptibly, measured in delayed responses and missed calls. Captain Marek's shift extends into nightfall without comment. The radar glow paints his face pale. He listens to distant generators and closer breathing. At 9 p.m., city lights dim by order, then by habit. Darkness spreads unevenly, leaving islands of illumination that feel exposed. Anna leaves the center at 10:40 p.m. The streets are quiet in a way she has only known from photographs. No traffic. No music. The hum of power dying replaces conversation. She walks the last blocks home, counting her steps, resisting the urge to run. In hospitals, non-essential procedures pause. Corridors smell of disinfectant and anticipation. Doctors review protocols they memorized years ago, discovering the margins are thinner than expected. Pharmacies log shortages they cannot name publicly. In apartment blocks, neighbors exchange nods instead of words, doors closing softly, as if noise might attract consequences. By 11:15 p.m., the temperature drops. Windows fog from inside. Weather reports gain authority disproportionate to their tone. Wind direction becomes a topic of whispered debate. Masks reappear from drawers, unfolded carefully, symbols of recent memory rather than instruction. Every choice feels provisional, subject to revision by an unseen hand. Anna stands at her window and watches a tram pass once, then not again. Captain Marek signs a logbook and realizes he has been writing the same time for an hour. Across the country, clocks continue to work, but time feels uneven, stretched and compressed by fear. Somewhere beyond the horizon, decision-makers hesitate, measuring consequences against sleep, knowing hesitation itself has weight, and that weight is already pressing down on everything familiar for now silently. At midnight, the blast zone is sealed. No images emerge. No numbers settle. The air itself seems to wait. Phones rest face up on bedside tables across the country, screens dark, volumes high. And as the first day ends without clarity, Poland understands that the strike was only the opening sentence, and the silence that follows is asking what comes next. Morning returns without relief. Light enters rooms cautiously, as if aware it is unwelcome. At 6:18 a.m., exactly one day after the alert, Poland wakes into a quieter version of itself. Radios speak first. Their voices are controlled, flattened, carefully paced. They confirm what everyone already knows and explain nothing else. The absence of new facts becomes the day's defining feature. Anna does not sleep through the night. She dozes in segments, phone on her chest, waking to phantom vibrations. When dawn arrives, she showers in near darkness, conserving heat, conserving water, conserving intention. At the coordination center, the binder labeled Week 1 has been replaced by another labeled Day 2. The change feels symbolic and insufficient. Captain Marek greets the morning from the same chair. His eyes burn from fluorescent light and static. Overnight logs show no new detonations, no incoming aircraft, no violations worth naming. The quiet unsettles him more than escalation would have. Silence implies deliberation. Deliberation implies intent. By 7:30 a.m., supply systems begin to reveal strain. Delivery trucks idle at border crossings, engines off, drivers waiting for instructions that do not come. Fuel stations impose limits without signage. Customers comply without complaint, counting liters like promises. Payment networks slow again, then recover imperfectly. Receipts print half sentences. Anna spends the morning reallocating resources she cannot see. Spreadsheets filled with estimates and redacted fields. Each decision displaces another need. She notices how often the word provisional appears in official guidance. Provisional shelters. Provisional rations. Provisional timelines. Permanence has vanished from the language. At 9 a.m., schools announce closures through automated messages. Children cheer briefly, then fall quiet when parents do not. Playgrounds sit empty under a sky too clear for the mood beneath it. The sound of traffic thins further. Cities feel padded, as if wrapped in fabric to soften impact. Merrick receives notice of expanded air patrols at mid-morning. Aircraft lift without lights, silhouettes against the pale blue. He tracks them by habit, by discipline, by faith in procedure. The radar remains mostly empty. Empty spaces become threatening when they are expected to be filled. By noon, media tone shifts again. Graphics simplify. Commentary shortens. Analysts stop speculating and begin summarizing. Markets open briefly, wobble, then suspend. Numbers freeze mid-screen. The economy does not crash. It pauses, holding itself rigid, waiting for permission to move. Anna eats lunch standing, an apple she does not taste. She listens as a colleague describes her parents driving west through the night, windows sealed, radio low. No one responds. Stories are shared without commentary now, like data points awaiting classification. Outside, lines form at pharmacies. Not panic lines. Quiet ones. Masks reappear, unfolded carefully, worn without instruction. Weather apps replace news apps on phones. Wind direction becomes conversational shorthand, a way to ask how frightened someone is without using the word. At 2 p.m., a brief power outage ripples across the city. Elevators stall. Office lights blink out, then return. People remain where they are, uncertain whether movement is advisable. When power resumes, no one cheers. Relief feels premature. Marek's supervisor speaks to him privately for the first time since the strike. The conversation is short. Contingencies are mentioned without detail. Merrick nods and returns to his console. He realizes he has stopped imagining home. The station has become the only place where time still behaves predictably. By late afternoon, rumors harden into beliefs. Borders are closing tonight. Another strike is imminent. Another will never come. Each version circulates with equal authority. Trust fractures along invisible lines. Friends argue softly, then stop arguing altogether. Anna leaves the center just before dusk. The streets are dimmer now by design. Storefronts shut early. Windows glow faintly, carefully shielded. She walks past a supermarket with boarded glass and handwritten hours. The handwriting feels intimate, human, vulnerable. As night approaches, official addresses are announced. Leaders speak from controlled environments, voices steady, sentences dense with caution. They promise vigilance, resilience, coordination. They do not promise safety. The omission is deliberate. Viewers understand. Merrick listens to the address through a small speaker. The words wash over him without anchoring. He watches the radar instead, searching for motion, for proof of consequence. None arrives. The absence presses harder with each passing minute. At 9 p.m., cities dim further. Streetlights shut down in clusters. Darkness becomes a shared agreement. Emergency generators hum, a low mechanical breathing that replaces conversation. Radios stay on, volume low, static thickening between phrases. Anna stands at her window again. The tram does not pass tonight. She thinks of her parents and finally checks the weather. The wind has shifted slightly north. The map updates without commentary. She closes the app and leaves the phone face up on the table. Hospitals move into contingency mode. Non-essential wards close. Staff sleep in shifts. Corridors echo with measured footsteps. No alarms sound. That, too, feels wrong. By midnight, the second day ends not with exhaustion, but with tension held too long. The country has adjusted its posture, leaning forward, braced. Somewhere beyond visibility, decisions are still forming. And as Anna turns off her light and Merrick signs another quiet log, both sense the same truth settling in: the waiting has learned their names, and it is not finished yet. Day 3 arrives without ceremony. Dawn spills across Warsaw like a held breath finally released, pale and uncertain. At 6:17 a.m., radios mark 48 hours since the detonation, and the phrasing matters. Since, not after. Anna wakes fully dressed on her couch, joints stiff, phone warm in her hand. She listens to the city's reduced pulse, fewer engines, fewer voices, fewer expectations. Survival has narrowed behavior. People no longer ask what will happen. They ask what can be endured today. The morning carries weight, pressing choices into silence before anyone is ready to respond with certainty or hope remains. At the coordination center, Anna feels movement without progress. Screens refresh, maps redraw borders that refuse to settle. Decisions made yesterday expire by noon. She notices how colleagues speak less, conserving energy, conserving belief. Coffee goes untouched. The building hums steadily, generators compensating for a grid no longer trusted. Outside, queues form again, orderly and mute. Bread deliveries arrive late and leave early. A nation practices restraint, not because it is calm, but because noise seems dangerous. Restraint becomes a language, spoken fluently by millions who never agreed to learn it, yet now rely on it to remain functional today. Captain Merrick marks the third sunrise from his console. The radar remains sparse, deliberate emptiness stretched across glowing green. He understands now that escalation would at least clarify intent. Waiting offers only speculation. Orders circulate, refined and restrained, emphasizing posture over action. Aircraft patrol in widening arcs, unseen but felt. Merrick thinks of his apartment, dark and silent, and realizes he has stopped imagining return. Duty has displaced home, not dramatically, but through repetition. Each logged hour tightens the distance between who he was and who he must remain until the situation resolves or redefines everything he understands about himself. By midday, the economy sheds illusion. Markets do not collapse, they suspend, as if holding breath. Insurance hotlines fall silent under uncertainty. Airspace remains restricted, tourism evaporates without announcement. Anna signs authorization after authorization, aware that signatures now feel ceremonial. Each approval buys time, not solutions. The word temporary loses meaning. People adapt anyway, inventing routines around scarcity. The national rhythm slows further, measured in longer pauses between signals. Every pause contains dread, but also discipline, an agreement not to fracture yet. The restraint feels practiced, rehearsed across generations, remembering drills and sirens that once promised safety and certainty too. Afternoon brings the maps. Radiation models circulate quietly, shared more than explained. Colors bloom across screens, and visible threats given shape. Wind direction dominates conversation. Weather presenters become trusted narrators of fate. Anna studies the overlays and finally calls her parents. The line crackles, but holds. They speak about soup, about sealing windows, about nothing else. Love hides inside practical advice. When the call ends, the silence feels louder than alarms, heavier than warnings. She notes the time, the wind, the way hope compresses into manageable, movable units that can be carried forward without breaking under pressure for now at least. Captain Merrick senses shift before announcement. Increased encryption. Shorter messages. A request to remain on station indefinitely. He accepts without response. Around him, technicians move with restrained urgency, careful not to collide. The air smells of metal and recycled breath. Night preparations begin early. Blackout procedures expand. Light becomes optional, then suspect. He imagines history pausing, balanced on a narrow edge of calculation and fear. This edge is familiar from textbooks, never from experience. Experience now writes itself in real time with no margin for error. Merrick breathes steadily, anchoring himself to procedure and vigilance as darkness thickens outside walls. Evening addresses arrive without spectacle. Leaders speak briefly, voices low, words precise. They acknowledge endurance, avoid promises. The public listens differently now, parsing pauses instead of sentences. Anna watches from the center, noting how no one applauds. The speeches end, leaving space rather than closure. That space fills immediately with speculation. Speculation spreads softly, through messages, glances, unfinished thoughts. No one raises their voice. Fear has become economical. It wastes nothing, conserves emotion for necessity. The restraint is shared, almost collaborative, as if society rehearses survival together without ever naming the drill that governs every movement from dusk onward now. Night 3 settles deliberately. Cities darken by choice, not failure. Streetlights extinguish in patterns. Windows dim behind curtains. The hum of generators replaces traffic. Anna walks home under stars she has not seen in years. Beauty feels intrusive. She resents it briefly, then accepts it as indifferent. Indifference, she realizes, is the environment now. Families sleep clothed, bags by doors, radios murmuring reassurance through static. No sirens sound. The absence sharpens attention. Every creak, every distant engine, feels amplified. Merrick remains at his station, watching darkness spread across regions his screen cannot show, but he imagines clearly regardless of data. Approaching the 72nd hour, exhaustion yields to clarity. This is not an event, but a condition. The future has narrowed. Plans shorten. People think in days, not years. Anna writes a note she never sends, then deletes it. Merrick stops checking the clock. Time has lost authority. Waiting has become the dominant force shaping behavior. It presses inward, reorganizing priorities without negotiation. Sleep becomes shallow, dreams fragmented, vigilance constant. The country exists in suspension. Suspension hums, vibrates, permeates conversation. No one names it aloud. Naming would give it form. Form would demand response. Response remains withheld by unseen hands. At the 72nd hour, the world has not ended. That realization offers no comfort. Something quieter has concluded instead. Certainty has thinned. Speed has vanished. Control feels ceremonial. Anna stands by her window again, phone silent. Merrick watches a blank sector of sky. Somewhere, a decision approaches completion. No alarms precede it. No lights announce it. The waiting tightens, learning patience, preparing to speak. When it does, everything already learned will be tested at once. The silence holds, heavy, intentional, unbearable. It promises consequence without revealing shape. Poland waits, and the world waits with it. Breath held. Eyes open. Silence does not break on the fourth day, it thickens. Morning arrives muted, as if filtered through layers of caution. At 6:19 a.m., radios mark 72 hours with careful phrasing that avoids verbs. Anna wakes before the announcement, body trained by tension, thoughts already arranged into contingencies. She senses a change not yet spoken, a pressure behind routine, like weather shifting before the clouds move. The city outside remains dim, lights rationed by habit rather than decree, streets echoing with the memory of traffic rather than its sound. At the coordination center, the air feels different. Conversations resume in shorter bursts, clipped and efficient. Anna notices the return of eye contact, brief but intentional. Screens show updated guidance with firmer language, fewer qualifiers. Provisional becomes operational. The shift carries weight. She understands that decisions are no longer placeholders. They will land somewhere, on someone. Her hand steady as she signs, though her pulse quickens. Responsibility has crossed a line from abstract to immediate. Captain Merrick experiences the same sensation from a different angle. Orders arrive with timestamps that leave no room for interpretation. Patrol patterns compress. Communication channels narrow. The radar remains mostly empty, but emptiness now feels curated, controlled. He adjusts his posture, aligning himself with procedure, letting discipline absorb uncertainty. The station hums louder, generators compensating for a grid that has learned fragility. Merrick realizes he has memorized the sound of that hum. It has replaced silence as his baseline. By mid-morning, movement resumes cautiously across the country. Not normal movement, but coordinated motion. Convoys travel under escort. Checkpoints appear without announcement. The population adapts quickly, producing documents, accepting detours, complying without argument. Anna watches live feeds showing orderly lines and measured exchanges. The absence of protest unsettles her more than chaos would have. Compliance suggests understanding. Understanding suggests acceptance of something not yet fully revealed. Information tightens. News broadcasts shorten further, delivering updates stripped to essentials. Analysts disappear. Spokespeople read prepared statements without embellishment. The language carries resolve without reassurance. Anna recognizes the tone from training scenarios never meant to be used. She feels a brief surge of anger at the understatement, then suppresses it. Anger wastes energy. Energy is required elsewhere now. Merrick tracks an increase in encrypted traffic at noon. The data is dense, layered, intentional. He does not need to know content to understand significance. The sky remains clear, but the air feels crowded with possibility. He thinks of Anna, though they have never met, imagining the civilian side of the machinery he serves. The thought grounds him, reminding him that vigilance has purpose beyond protocol. Afternoon brings controlled disclosure. Authorities acknowledge elevated readiness across alliances without naming triggers. The admission lands heavily. Citizens absorb it in silence, adjusting expectations downward. Shops limit hours further. Public transport runs skeletal schedules. Anna leaves the center briefly to walk, to feel pavement underfoot. The city responds by offering quiet cooperation. Doors close softly. Windows dim. People nod and move on. At 3 p.m., a test alert sounds nationwide. Phones vibrate once, a clean tone, then stillness. Instructions are minimal. Acknowledgement required. Anna watches confirmations populate dashboards in real time, millions of signals answering at once. The scale overwhelms her. Society has become an interface, responsive and tense, awaiting further input. Merrick feels the alert through his pocket, though he does not check it. His attention remains fixed on the horizon of data. He receives a message marked priority, requesting readiness confirmation. He responds immediately. The exchange feels ceremonial, a rehearsal for something larger. He notes how his breathing has slowed, how focus narrows fear into manageable edges. As evening approaches, the weather shifts. Clouds gather, flattening the sky. Wind turns unpredictable. Weather presenters speak carefully, aware their words carry new weight. Anna checks forecasts obsessively, mapping risk against population density. She makes a call that reroutes resources north, knowing another region will go without. Trade-offs feel sharper now. There is no surplus to soften impact. Night falls early. Cities choose darkness again, a collective instinct hardened into policy. Anna returns home and prepares her apartment as instructed, sealing vents, staging supplies. The routine calms her. Ritual offers shape when certainty fails. She listens to the radio as she works, voices steady, music absent. The hum of power fills the gaps between sentences. At the station, Merrick enters an extended watch cycle. Shifts blur. Coffee tastes metallic. Conversations shrink to code and confirmation. Outside, rain begins, soft and persistent, masking distant sounds. The radar displays faint anomalies that resolve into nothing. False signals test patience. Patience holds. Near midnight, Anna receives a message she has been anticipating and dreading. A change in posture, effective immediately. Not escalation, but preparation. The wording is precise, final. She reads it twice, then closes her eyes. The conflict has crystallized. The waiting phase is ending. Action approaches, undefined but inevitable. Across the nation, households mirror the same preparation. Water fills bathtubs. Documents stack neatly by doors. Pets sense disruption and linger close. The gestures are quiet, synchronized without coordination. Social fabric tightens, threads drawn inward. No one says goodbye. No one says goodbye because goodbye implies departure. This moment feels like standing in place while the ground decides whether it will move beneath everyone together. Breath slows. Listening replaces speaking inside homes. Merrick senses it simultaneously. An alert tone he has never heard before sounds briefly, then stops. Instructions follow, concise and irreversible. He acknowledges without hesitation. Around him, the station tightens, every movement purposeful. He thinks of the country beyond the walls, dark and listening. As the fourth day closes, the silence shifts again. It no longer feels passive. It feels deliberate, like a held note before resolution. Anna stands by her window, phone dark, city breath held. Merrick watches the sky for signs that may never come. Somewhere, the machinery of decision engages fully. The story has not reached its end, but it has crossed into its next movement, and nothing waiting beyond it will allow return. Morning on the fifth day feels different, not louder or quieter, but decided. The nation wakes with purpose, as if an invisible signal has been received. Anna stands in her kitchen, hands resting on the counter, listening to the radio. The voice speaks slowly, carefully, confirming readiness without revealing direction. She feels the shift settle into her bones, a weight that demands attention. Outside, windows glow faintly, streets remain empty, and movement waits for permission to begin. Nothing has happened yet, but everything is aligned toward what comes next, tightening the moment into focus and resolve without offering comfort anywhere. At the coordination center, the atmosphere sharpens. Conversations are brief and exact, stripped of uncertainty. Anna moves between stations, issuing confirmations that lock systems into place. Each action closes a door behind it. She understands this now. Reversibility has thinned. The maps stabilize, no longer pulsing with speculation. Lines hold. Boundaries commit. She notices how calm arrives alongside acceptance, how fear recedes when choice narrows. Around her, colleagues work without commentary, sharing glances that acknowledge consequence. The machinery of response hums steadily, no longer waiting, no longer rehearsing, finally performing the role it was built for under pressure. Captain Merrick receives his confirmation at 8:11 a.m. The message is concise, unmistakable. Posture shifts to execution. He straightens, adjusts his headset, and breathes once, deep and measured. The radar glows brighter now, or perhaps his eyes have learned to see differently. Patrols align precisely, overlapping arcs forming an invisible shield. He tracks each signal with practiced focus, aware that vigilance has become active rather than watchful. There is relief in motion. Motion replaces imagination. The unknown contracts into tasks that can be completed correctly or incorrectly, leaving less room for dread to wander unchecked. Across cities, coordinated activity resumes. Transport runs in controlled intervals. Checkpoints formalize. Citizens comply, reading the tone as clearly as instructions. Anna watches live feeds showing steady lines and composed faces. No panic, no celebration. The restraint feels intentional, almost ceremonial. Society performs its part, understanding that performance itself is a stabilizing force. She recognizes the paradox: order emerges not from safety, but from its absence. The clarity of risk simplifies behavior. People follow guidance because guidance exists, and existence is enough to anchor them for now. By midday, announcements arrive that carry consequence without drama. Elevated readiness confirmed. Defensive measures activated. The language avoids urgency, but urgency vibrates beneath every syllable. Anna signs final authorizations and feels a quiet release. The waiting phase, which hollowed her nights and blurred her days, loosens its grip. In its place stands responsibility, heavier but more honest. She thinks of her parents and knows they are listening too, reading between lines, preparing without instruction. The thought steadies her hands and sharpens her focus simultaneously. Merrick senses the same transition from his station. The sky remains unchanged, but intent saturates the air. He monitors a sector that shows increased activity far beyond the horizon. Signals appear, disappear, reappear stronger. Allied systems synchronize seamlessly, a choreography rehearsed for decades and finally enacted. He feels pride tempered by gravity. This alignment exists because history demanded preparation. Preparation exists because history never remains quiet for long. He logs data with precision, aware that accuracy now carries weight beyond metrics, influencing choices he will never witness directly. Afternoon light fades behind thickening clouds. Weather becomes secondary to posture. Anna steps outside briefly, feeling the city's altered rhythm. Movement is purposeful, constrained, calm. Shops operate under new hours. Transit hums lightly. The absence of excess noise feels deliberate, protective. She realizes that people have internalized instruction, turning policy into instinct. This realization moves her unexpectedly. Compliance here is not submission, but coordination, millions of small decisions aligning toward collective endurance without needing explanation or enforcement. At the station, Merrick enters sustained operational mode. Breaks shorten. Focus deepens. Messages arrive continuously, each acknowledged, each filed. He notices fatigue hovering at the edges of concentration, but discipline holds it back. The rain begins again, tapping softly against reinforced walls. Sound dampens further, isolating the room in a cocoon of data and responsibility. He thinks briefly of sleep, then dismisses it. Rest will come later, or it will not. Either outcome feels secondary to maintaining the present line without error. As evening approaches, Anna receives an update marked critical. Not alarming, not reassuring, simply decisive. A threshold has been crossed. Defensive alignment complete. Contingency escalation authorized if conditions change. She reads the text twice, absorbing its finality. The central conflict crystallizes: endurance versus reaction, patience versus preemption. She understands that restraint remains the strategy, but restraint now carries teeth. The balance is delicate, held by vigilance and mutual calculation across borders and screens. Night settles differently now. Darkness no longer signals uncertainty, but readiness. Cities dim as instructed. Radios continue their steady cadence. Anna prepares for sleep without expectation of rest, mind alert but organized. Merrick watches his sector with unwavering attention, knowing others watch theirs with equal resolve. Somewhere beyond perception, decisions remain suspended, influenced by what has been built today. The fifth day closes not with resolution, but with posture fixed, systems aligned, and a fragile equilibrium holding. The conflict has fully revealed itself, and whether patience survives the next test remains unanswered.